Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate this. I think this is, I appreciate the weather too.
Thank you for picking a day like this.
Tom and Kay did not charge extra for this. This is just part of the service. So you should expect it anytime you come aboard the Lannon. I'm Paul McGeary. I think I know everybody, but it's always good to introduce oneself. They taught me at politician school. What we're going to do today is a presentation about a proposal for the parcel that's called prosaically I4C2, or I4C2. I credit the mayor with that one. That wasn't my original thought. For probably best part of the last year, I've been circulating this idea, getting feedback from people, trying to get ideas, and this, for some of you who first saw this maybe back in July, this has changed quite a bit. The proposal that was presented in December at the idea generation part of the I4C2 process. But the core of it has always been an aquarium and a research center, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. Our presentation will be in 3 parts. I'll do the first part simply reviewing what has been put together as the proposal for I4C2. Again, don't take this as literal. I think as part of the process of developing that site, there's going to be a lot of negotiation, a lot of changing this and tweaking that, but it's an idea. It's a core on which to build. Following me will be Mark Smith. Where's Mark? Mark is here. Mark is the Executive Director of the Ocean Aquarium in New Bedford. He has developed and been involved in many world-class aquariums and research center, including Lisbon in Portugal, Genoa in Italy, Sydney, what am I forgetting? What's
Barcelona.
Genoa.
Barcelona, Spain.
Barcelona and Genoa. Mark is going to talk a little about the process, how you put a project like this together, because he has been involved in building them from the ground up, from idea to fundraising to incorporation to dealing with the various permitting issues that come up. And believe it or not, I4C2 is probably not the thorniest, though it probably ranks fairly high. Permitting issues that we're going to face. Peter Chermayev, to my left. Peter was a founder of Cambridge 7 Associates. He now has his own company, Peter Chermayev Associates. LLC. And Peter, too, has been involved in a number of aquarium projects, including the National Aquarium in Baltimore, the Tennessee Aquarium in Chattanooga, and you were involved in Lisbon as well?
Yes.
Lisbon.
Osaka and Genoa.
Wow. And as part of Cambridge 7, he also developed the U.S. Pavilion at Expo 67. Those of us of a certain age remember that. You did some of the MBTA stations too.
Guidelines and standards.
So urban design is one of his long suits as well. So whatever we build here has to fit into an urban landscape, and Peter has a lot of wealth of knowledge there. Peter's going to talk about the impact that a facility like we envision can have on a city like Gloucester, on its economy, on its culture, on its sense of itself, which I think is an important part of what we're doing here. But let me begin by talking generally about the project itself. This is the schematic, and I want to thank particularly Windover Associates of Manchester and Peter Nemitz, architect of Boston, who contributed enormously to this project, including making these sketches for me and taking what was my back of the napkin sketch and turning it into something that had some reality to it. You're looking at this from Rogers Street, looking out to the harbor. The aquarium would be on your left, the research center and other facilities on your right. Down the center of the parcel is what Peter Nemitz called the Avenue to the Sea. Public access is going to be a very important part of this project. This is an opening into the harbor and out to the ocean itself. The aquarium is about 3 industrial stories above grade. You'll see as we get into it. As you know, the parcel itself is below grade, about 10 and a half feet, Sarah? So there is a level below the level of Rogers Street, but the entry, the human entry, will be on at the Rogers Street level. Okay? Over here, there's a mix of...
That's good. What else is going in?
Yeah, the fish swim in from underneath. They commute to work. It saves a lot of money.
City council.
But we'll talk about what happens on each level as we go through the schematics. But something like this would be the view from Rogers Street. I envision it as a gateway, as an entry point from the harbor to the downtown, but also from Middle Street and the downtown out to the harbor. It's a channel that leads back and forth and creates a flow between the harbor front and the downtown. As many people will tell you, part of the problem we face in Gloucester is people go up and down Roger Street, they go up and down Main Street, and they never cross the 30 yards in between. This is designed, as you'll see when we look at the full
There are
parcel.
too many one-way streets, that's why.
Well, we'll address that too, Adele. Well, we may at least make it one way another way. I
Well,
think there's a number of prospects.
part of the problem.
Anyway, so the idea is to create this corridor, this natural corridor that feeds from the harbor to the town and from the town to the harbor. Just very briefly, you can look at these later, I'm going to leave them out. This would be the Roger Street level, and you would see there are two major buildings, actually two complexes I think. The Aquarium and exhibition space on the left, including a visitor center, a new visitor center for the city, which would be located in the downtown area. On the first floor we would have some retail, some of the stuff that would go, for example, an aquarium would need a gift shop and those kinds of things. There'd be some retail space to generate a revenue stream for the parcel. A restaurant possibly here, and an open balcony that overlooks the harbor, overlooks the fishing boats on the back, on the water side. So this is Roger Street, this is the harbor. These are the existing docks, those would remain. That's the basic footprint. The first floor is some of your ancillary stuff, some exhibit space. On the second floor we have more, on this level we have more aquarium exhibit space. And on this level this is the research center itself, which would be about 20,000 square feet to begin with. The aquarium on its two levels would be about 40,000. The footprint of these is 20,000 square feet. The actual size of the site is just under 2 acres, 1.89 acres. So these would fit nicely within it. You see that we do have this arch, this entranceway. I didn't point out in the original, but there's parking for tour buses, which could also be used as a concert space or gathering space as the site has been used heretofore. Put the buses out, you put the seats in, we're in business. On the third level, the research center is only 2 stories, so I think we want to build it with room to expand. On the third level, we add a conference center, which is integrated with the aquarium. The exact financial relationship, not sure, but it would certainly be a revenue stream for the aquarium and for the site. It could also be a concert center and a theater. I mean, if we do dispose of the Fuller School at some point, we're going to need a place for the Cape Ann Symphony to play. Gloucester Stage Company, I know, is always on the lookout for interesting places to expand to or occasionally play. This, believe it or not, will hold 1,000 people as a theater concert venue. As a conference center, it would hold about 600. So it can handle a fairly substantial conference. It can also obviously be subdivided for smaller things. I got this idea, frankly, from Monterey in California, which does a significant amount of their income as rental of the space for purposes like weddings, bar mitzvahs, corporate meetings. To me, you know, if you have that kind of a space and you're in an aquarium venue or you're overlooking Gloucester Harbor, I mean, you can do that or you can go to the Marriott in Burlington. You decide. It seems to me it's a powerful marketing
Not much
tool
choice, isn't it?
to have a venue like that with scenery like this. I mean, it seems to me it almost sells itself. And it's an important revenue stream because aquariums are expensive to run and they do need ancillary sources of revenue. Okay. And finally, at the present ground level, we would create some parking. This would be below the aquarium level, below the Roger Street level, and I think it's room for 160 cars. So it's a substantial parking area. Envision kind of all-day parking. People could come in and be ticket or kiosk or however we would do it. They could pay and stay, which is really part of the logic behind the tourism aspect of this, is to draw people into the downtown, get them to put their keys in their pocket and stay alone, and make it easy and convenient for them to go up to Main Street, to spend, you know, to go to the shops, to go to the restaurants. Another block up, they're on Middle Street, they're in the historic district, they're going to the Cape Ann Museum, visiting the churches, visiting City Hall, which is, as we all know, is historic in its own right. But it creates this gateway. And the gateway is really the concept that this started from. the specifics of the proposal really derive from that. And the idea of a gateway really comes from the three goals of the harbor plan, which were to support the maritime industrial use, to support the fishing industry, to support the visitor-based economy. Actually, it's more, and work on the downtown. I tried to come up with an idea that would serve all of those needs. Not easy to do. You've only got 1.89 acres, but we tried to shoehorn as much as we could into that to serve as many needs. So there is a maritime industrial component. Some of that retail space, for example, could be a lobster farm. So the lobstermen could come in and drop their catch off right there and sell to the public at that location. The tourism, obviously, the tourist center, the visitor center, and the aquarium cater to the tourists. But to me, the key to the part that is most important to me is that research center. When I think of the future of Gloucester, we are going to need to create the kind of 21st century jobs that when kids grow up here and go to Gloucester High School or even go away to college, there's jobs here they can come back to. Too many kids like my son, who's now in San Francisco, they grow up, they go away to school, and they leave because there's a thought that there isn't a lot for them to do. This kind of research center, in and of itself, would employ some number of people. But beyond that, I see it as a kind of mini MIT, a place that generates, where the postdocs, the researcher's there and he's leading a research team, and he or she and their postdocs come up with an idea. So they go up the industrial park and they rent 1,500 square feet, and they start cooking that idea and turning it into the digitals of tomorrow. It starts not quite in a garage, but it starts to build a momentum, a culture, exactly, a culture of research and of science, and brings people in. Once this thing starts to grow, then people will come to it. When you stand on I-4C2 and you look back up at Rogers Street, all those buildings turn their back to the sea, but if there was something to look at, it would be very easy to turn them around, to build in there the kind of businesses that, that thrive. Those businesses now, they rent for $2, $3, $4 a square foot. They're very inexpensive. But if there's value there, if there's profit to be made, those rents are going to go up, the property values are going to go up, and then the city wins because we start collecting taxes on it, which is always warms the cockles in my heart as a city councilor. So that's a quick overview of the vision.